Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Riste here, diving into a 13.10 itemization guide coming right at ya. To start off the video, I feel like we should cover the Mythics first because I feel like that people ask about Mythics more than anything because right now Mythics are still the cornerstone for any build in League of Legends, and you must carefully consider Garen's Mythic choices because now I think he has a few more choices. We'll cover 5 Mythics that I truly believe are Garen's best Mythics. Let's go ahead and bring Stridebreaker onto the table. Then we're going to go ahead and pair that with Trinity Force, Galeforce. Let's go Youmuu's Ghostblade, and then one last Mythic here, Goredrinker. Yeah, so that's the 5 Mythics I want to cover. And we're going to talk about some builds that accompany these Mythics and what you guys can use to go ahead and carry in 13.10. Garen is one of the best users of Stridebreaker, and Stridebreaker is not going away anytime soon. Why? They just gave the item a 10 attack damage. And the build path is a little bit more optimized because they did a little bit of a tuning in the cost itemization for Hearthbound X, so it's a little bit more attractive as a component. So as a result, building Stridebreaker now just feels better, and completed, you're just going to get 10 attack damage. So what should we expect with Stridebreaker? Well, you guys should expect it in a multitude of games. It's good for team fighting, it's good for split pushing, it's good for just about generally anything. And what's really cool about this build too is that not only does it offer amazing attack damage, it offers health, so that means it supplements builds that are going to allow you to become extremely tanky later on. And also supplying a very strong Sterak's Gage shield, and you guys are going to see me reference Sterak's Gage several times in this video because this item is insane right now, and you guys should be building in your own games too. But let's talk about like 2 common builds that I go with Stridebreaker that can really help you in your games. I decided to also include Zeal as like the separating mark because I still think Zeal is a good component to build. If you guys don't have a component to build in general, Zeal can be a good pickup still. They did nerf the item's stats, which does cut down on the item's gold efficiency, but it's still 120% when it used to be 150. Guess what, guys? Zeal still busted the build. So I'm still the opinion that you guys can build Zeal in your games and simply profit. So I have 2 different builds here. We have the Stridebreaker and the Black Cleaver, and we also have the Stridebreaker and the Essence Reaver. These 2 builds accomplish different things. With Stridebreaker Black Cleaver, you're basically synergizing Garen's natural strength to reduce armor on the enemy team, thus amplify your team's physical damage. So, of course, a really good teamfight accomplice. Now, if you guys are split pushing, one build I've been going for lately, which has been extremely powerful and not only sideline present, dueling, but also blowing people up if they enter the brush that I'm sitting in, is Stridebreaker into Essence Reaver. You have the Stridebreaker active combined with the Spellblade passive plus attack damage plus critical strike of Essence Reaver. The damage is insane. If you guys really want to go for like a 3-item build, because either of these items, if you need to build armor to take on like a tanky target for split pushing, can be paired with a Hullbreaker. I didn't list Hullbreaker in any of these builds because I think Hullbreaker is still conditional towards split pushing specifically. If you guys feel like you are going to be split pushing, you can go for Hullbreaker. But I really do recommend not building it until level 13. If you guys are really fed out of your mind, you oftentimes can assemble your second item before you even reach level 13, depending on how well you're farming, of course, and how the gold income's going. So yeah, Stridebreaker into Cleaver, Stridebreaker into Essence Reaver could be accomplishing a Hullbreaker third, or you guys could go into Sterak's Gage, as I referenced before. Amazing teamfight item. I think like the big core differential here is like Hullbreaker if you're going to go for not team fighting, split pushing, and then Sterak's Gage if you're going to go for team fighting, respectively. Let's go into Trinity Force next, because Trinity Force is a very topical item. I think there's been a lot of Garen players who've been innovating with Trinity Force, patch after patch, and the question remains, is it a good mythic to pick up? And I think, like, this is the best time to build it, if anything, because they just literally threw 5 attack damage on it. And then on top of that, too, the uptime on the Adaptive Force stacking passive now synergizes with Conqueror. So what does that mean? Conqueror Garen is probably the best pilot for this playstyle, because you have the added synergy of having Conqueror's uptime paired with an identical uptime for Trinity Force. I truly do think, though, with that said, that Trinity Force is going to mainly be used as a split push entity for your mythic choice and how you're going to be carrying out the game. So you should be looking to split because, again, unfortunately with Trinity Force, stacking the Adaptive Force passive is really difficult in teamfights because it can only be achieved through Garen's auto attacks and Q. And if you guys know, with most combat patterns with Garen, the patterns involve Garen using Q, maybe an extra auto, and then immediately spinning. So that's only 2 stacks. You need 5. That's what makes it really ideal for hitting towers, because if you guys pair this with, you know, a Sterak's Gage or a Hullbreaker, the damage is going to ramp up to be very insane. Like against tanky targets, you want to pair them with Black Cleaver because I think Triforce and the Black Cleaver is still a perfect 2-item combination. But be on the lookout, because if you guys go ahead and like buy a Zeal and then complete your Hullbreaker on level 13, you can go for Trinity Force into Hullbreaker. That is definitely a valid playstyle. I really do recommend it versus like mages or assassins, because that bulk health, the 60 attack damage, the 5% MS, this item is probably buffed in the most insane way compared to any other item I've seen on this patch. So like honestly, the freeload guys right now exist in Hullbreaker, and Trinity Force is the mythic to pilot this item. Next up, we're gonna go to the Goredrinker build. Goredrinker has surfaced this season as a very attractive option for CDR Garen stacking players. I think Sunlight was the person who made it pretty prominent within the North America server, and I think other regions are beginning to try it too. I think besides the general buff to Goredrinker, which was a 25 extra health added to every mythic stack that you get through it. Other than that, the build really hasn't changed too much. I think like the common CDR items that you're building with Goredrinker in patch 13.9 exist in the same fashion for 13.10. It's just got significantly better, because with 4 items completed off of Goredrinker, you get an extra 100 HP, which isn't, you know, like game changing, but it still is something nice. Common build, like this is probably more so like a more completed build. Your Goredrinker into Black Cleaver. I think like if you guys are coming to Ionian Boots instead of Berserker Graves, if you guys are going to go for Phase Rush, like again, if you guys are taking Conqueror, then Spin Count's important. You can probably replace the Ionian Boots with Berserker Graves. But I think Zeal is a really, really good way to keep your spin count up, access critical strike, and then it allows you to go ahead and continue into building more CDR, for example, Spirit of Shojin, or Stoneblade if you guys feel like that might be valuable for you. But yeah, other than that, I really can't say too much about the CDR build. I still think it's a really great into team comps that are melee oriented and are bound to mosh pit WWE 1997 stack on Garen like a gosh darn pinball machine. So consider it in those aforementioned type of scenarios, and yeah, let me know how it works for you guys. But other than that, not too much. Same old, same old. Still pretty effective though. All right, now let's talk about Youmuu's Ghostblade. Youmuu's is back, but Garen players were already building a 13.9 as a snowball item. That potential no longer exists because now it's a mythic item. So now if you guys commit the Youmuu's, it's gonna be a hefty cost because it denies you the opportunity to go for a different mythic. And the problem with Youmuu's too is that, yes, it makes you very fast, and the active is more powerful now than ever, but it also makes Garen very frail. So, like, this opens up the floor for Garen to stack lethality, because lethality items are kind of busted insane right now. Collector has been more valuable now to build now than ever, because they just decided to slap 6 lethality on it for free, which is insane versus squishy targets. I will be having a video posting soon that will demonstrate the power of this particular item. But yeah, lethality stacking is probably best paired with Youmuu's, because if you guys are going to focus on a powerful early game, this is the mythic to build. So again, it comes with a trade-off here, guys. You're going to be pretty frail, but your damage will be pretty insane. You know, if you pair Youmuu's into Zeal, Collector, Berserker Graves, you're going to be blowing up people squishy left and right. This build will not be good for taking on tankier targets or bruisers with Omnivamp, Lifesteal, so be considerate of those things. With that said, though, I think if Garen players did pair this with Resolve Trade Conditioning Overgrowth, it may allow that pseudo tankiness, if you guys can scale up. Like, for example, I took on, in the game where I went Ghostblade into Collector into Zeal, I took on a Vygar, and Vygar is extremely passive. That's what allowed me to get away with Conditioning Overgrowth. And that pseudo tankiness I got through Garen's W, his natural health scaling, and then Conditioning Overgrowth, as I mentioned earlier, allowed me to basically mitigate the weakness of Youmuu's, because I could get that extra tankiness from elsewhere. So could be a good consideration. Or if you guys want to go stack movement speed items with it, try to impact them up as much as you can, that's fine. I think that's okay. But yeah, Youmuu's is definitely more so a mid lane snowball build. I don't believe it's too viable for top lanes. So with that said, guys, yeah, just consider it for mid lane. I don't think it's going to be too seeing top lane. Now, here we go. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the video with one more mythic cover choice, and that's going to be Galeforce. Galeforce is still a mythic. The build path is actually better now than ever because it incorporates Zeal, so I think Galeforce versus like range targets or versus the Wind Brothers, extremely slippery melee champions, is really, really insane. Again, I think like Galeforce is best paired with Conqueror Garen. I know there's going to be the First Strike cultists out there. If you guys want to go ahead and do that, you do you, but I'm not touching that rune. I'm not touching that keystone. I promise you. I just don't really see the appeal of it. Conqueror Galeforce is where it's at. And then again, guys, you could scale it with additional critical strike items. So that's really cool. Collector, I think, is a really great option. But we will talk about some other niche critical strike options as it goes on. I also do recommend, guys, to round out the build with durability, because again, with the Youmuu's build, if you guys see Black Cleaver Steraks here, I really do believe that Garen's fragility is going to be pretty noticeable in late game if you guys do not round out your build. And I think Black Cleaver Steraks is an automatic 2-item combination to build to round out Garen's durability and create some effective HP that really shines into the late game. Yeah, so Galeforce could be really good if you guys are going to be taking Conqueror and you're playing on snowballing and their team is mobile. You don't really value a Stridebreaker as much because Galeforce will be more bang for your buck. So yeah, definitely do consider it. Again, it is a little bit playstyle preferred. You can solve some games without having to go Galeforce, but I do think the people who go Galeforce should be acknowledged in this video. So here I am. I'm basically singing your praises, guys. Wrapping up this video, we're going to go for some powerful items to consider. A lot of people have been talking to me about Collector. I think Collector, as I mentioned before, is kind of insane. I honestly suspect they're going to nerf this thing because Assassins and Bruisers, Rengar is abusing this item left and right. This is the free low snowball item, guys. If you guys can get away with a Collector, it synergizes so well with Garen. So, like, this is the best time to build it. I want to talk about Stormrazor, though. Stormrazor is a item that has a big competitor right now, and people have been asking about me too, Prowler's Claw. I think out of the 2 items that we can compare side by side, that Stormrazor is probably the big winner. And the reason why, I think, is because Prowler's Claw does not offer critical strike and it does not offer attack speed. I think Stormrazor being able to not only offer attack damage, critical strike, and attack speed, on top of the big moon speed that you get from proccing the energized effect, is really, really awesome, and you should not discount it. I think like stats-wise, I do think it synergizes a lot better than Prowler's. One advantage that Prowler's could have over Stormrazor is that the slow is pretty massive. So in an aspect where you're trying to peel for your teammate, that big slow could be something that Garen could pair his silence with to basically create a pseudo stun. So like tenacity pending, that could be a great thing. But other than that particular like point of advantage, I do think that Stormrazor probably is the better purchase if you guys are considering, you know, going for another snowball item. I want to talk about Sterak's Gage one final time, because if you guys are not building this item, then what the heck are you doing? Because they literally just threw 8 seconds of tenacity on this thing with the shield detonates. The health shield is stronger than ever. Guys, invest in Steraks. You cannot go wrong. Okay, PSA is over. Statikk Shiv, I think, is a very, very attractive item, and a lot of people have been asking about me about this too. I think, like, in games where you're dealing with triple inhibitors down and super minions have negative magic resistance, so they're more susceptible to magic damage, and you are stationed to defend base, and you're dealing with, like, 2 to 3 super minions coming into base at once where your team is doing things, I think this item is going to allow you to push out supers faster than any other singular item. And I think that this is a great pickup when you guys are defending bases and trying to deal with split pushers at the same time. Garen's Wave Clear is naturally good to begin with, but this could make it all so gravy and allow you to really stall certain split pushers while also keeping super minions away. Because unless you guys are dealing with like 300, 400 attack damage with a lot of spins, Garen's ability to take out super minions is really lackluster compared to the next Bruiser. I mean, let's be real, guys. I think several of you guys can agree with me too. So again, pretty situational here, but I do think Statikk Shiv in the right situation has a place. We're going to wrap up this video, though, with some spice. All right? Things to consider and look out for are Mikiro Scimitar. Now, they've always been trying to give this item love, to make people build it. This item has an extremely low pick rate, but them, like, literally buffing this thing's attack damage is really interesting here, because now this item is 100%, over 100% gold efficient before it's passive. And I do think that in certain games you're dealing with suppression people or Mordekaiser late game, or you're playing on split pushing and they have like every crowd control ability under the sun, the active is kind of insane, because you can literally activate it and gain, what, 50% movement speed for a second, which in certain situations, if your reactions are good, literally can eject you out of any escape situation. And like, sometimes Garen being effective as a split pusher all comes down to the factor of how slippery he can be, because one of Garen's best qualities for split pushing that other champions kind of lack is how slippery and how tenacious he is in terms of being able to escape from situations. I mean, he's got literally tenacity and slow cleanse built into his kit. This item makes it all gravy. So again, guys, I definitely want to tinker around with this item. You guys should too, especially for those Garen mains out there looking to split push and be that uncatchable secret agent that tries to go for the enemy nexus, okay? Last item is Abyssal Mask. So this item is pretty cheap, but the thing about Garen historically is that he's never been really good on AP heavy team comps because his armor shred does absolutely nothing for your respective mages that are paired with it. Thematic, right? Enter Abyssal Mask. You could build this item technically and shred magic resistance from the enemy team. So if you're playing front to back and you have mages that are backing you up, going in with this item and shredding the opponent's magic resistance is honestly uncannily amazing for your mages, and you should, guys, consider picking this up because this will help a Fed LeBlanc or a Fed Zerath or like maybe like a Fed Vladimir allow them to get stuff done in the same way that you would go ahead and amplify the impact of your respective AD teammates with Black Cleaver. So again, definitely look to slip it into your inventory. I wouldn't be surprised if pro players do this for their respective AP carries, because right now I think Riot Games is pushing this item for those certain win conditions to accompany AP heavier team comps, because historically now they've been really punished. If you guys see a comp with 3 or 4 mages, you oftentimes are going to lose because like items that reduce magic resistance are very, very rare. You know, usually magic penetration is very personal. You know, only certain champions can possess it. You know, it's all with champion to champion to champion, but like providing magic reduction for your entire team is a nutty concept. It's game breaking. All right, so I think that basically wraps up everything I wanted to say. Again, as the weeks progress and they start adjusting, nerfing, buffing a lot of items until this patch is really solidified, a lot of this stuff can change. I'd be happy to update you guys, of course, too. Make sure to visit me at twitch.tv/riste to continuously ask me, because I know you guys are going to do it anyway, ask me for my opinions and thoughts as to how I think certain changes are going to land as we see them surface. Of course, I want to thank my Patreons as well, because I've been talking to my Patreons about build changes, and I actually gave them a heads up about what I'm likely to build before I even made this video here. So again, if you guys do support my Patreon, even a $2 donation, you guys can get inside scoop of my thoughts before I publish it anywhere else. Thanks guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you guys are eyeing on in terms of Garen builds for this patch. You guys might have the tech before I even come think of it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next Tuber Duper. Demacia, baby.